Welcome to another episode of B2B Marketing Futures. Today we are asking a simple question. What makes innovation spread? Whether you are launching a new product, breaking into a new market, or trying to shift behaviors, understanding how innovations gain traction is critical for every marketer. We'll explore the classic levers of adoption, like relative advantage and observability, dig into the power of networks and word of mouth, and ask what it really takes to cross the chasm from early adopters to mainstream. Joining me today are four incredible guests who bring rich real-world perspectives from SaaS, MedTech, energy, and LATAM go-to-market. But before we dive in, let's have everyone introduce themselves and share a bit about what they are currently working on. So, Ruben, would you like to give a sentence on yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Ruben Mendoza. I'm currently a senior partner manager at Asana, and I've been focusing my professional career in developing different type of partnerships. And I would like to bring to the table today some honest opinions and also some experiences about how to go to market and how to link those experiences with the triability and all the things that you kind of already mentioned, right, about a product. And hopefully that will give some light on all of on the audience about what are like the barriers, what are like the most expected outcomes, the things that we have to deal with, and hopefully that will give us some insights and perspective.
Thank you so much, Ruben. Phoebe.
Hi everyone, I'm Phoebe Do. I'm currently a senior product marketing manager at Gong, and my work at Gong is focusing on bringing new innovative solutions to market. One of them that I own was Gong Engage, which is an AI-powered sales engagement solution, and we brought that to the market a year and a half ago, and we disrupted a kind of like a mature market of like sales engagement, and we changed the way how people should do sales engagement, how people should reach out to accounts and contacts to nurture that relationship. So today, I would love to share that experience with everyone, and then we can talk more about like how do we bring an innovative, disruptive solution to a market that already have existing mature competitors.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Nishant.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nishant Sinha, Senior Global Marketing Manager for Disease State Marketing Molecular, and I'm currently employed at BD. I have been in the marketing for 12 plus years and like really in tune with customers, understanding their needs, driving, understanding the complexity, observability that we're going to be talking about, and what actually drives the innovation and adoption. I would be happy to share all these details as we move forward and would bring some like real insight from customer meetings and my own personal experience. You know, what could let you get through the hoops of like, actual adoption and getting the product to be a big hit in the market.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Don?
Sure. Hi guys, my name is Duan Nguyen, and I'm the artist marketing manager for Rise Energy. We're an intelligent market provider, and my work is focusing on the renewables and clean tech part of the portfolio. I help driving sales from power companies, investors, and policy makers using fast and high resolution data on renewables and carbon markets so that they can make multi-million dollar decision on whether or not they want to acquire, start a project. When it comes to innovation, innovation, energy transition is the best idea is start if the buyers don't trust the data. So if they can see the ROI, then they won't commit to it. And so that's why when it comes to the adoption mechanics, that's very fascinating for me to help them to really get that going.
Well, thank you so much for those introductions. Let's kick things off by talking about the fundamentals. Okay. Diffusion theory says adoption is driven by five key factors: a relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, triability, and observability. So, do these hold true in your experience? Are there any other factors you've seen play a major role in your markets?
I can go first, and I can speak to the relative advantage point. So I can share a little bit about like the story of how we brought Gong Engage, which is a sales engagement solution, to the market. So like if we take a step back, like Gong, the core product that we were offering was a revenue intelligence, conversation intelligence product. So what we do was that we capture all of the sales call conversations, we transcribe those conversations, and then we use AI to analyze all of that insights to give sales reps insight into like their talk track ratio and how they can tailor their conversation to really coach them to have better conversation with customers. And at the same time, we give sales leaders and frontline managers insight into their team performance and pipeline performance. So like if we look at that core product, our biggest advantage is all of that conversation data, the unstructured data, and it gives the reality picture into like pipeline performance and rep performance. So we use that as our core competitive advantage to expand our platform to add other apps. So when we thought of like a sales engagement solution, instead of thinking about like just providing a tool for sales reps to automate their outreach so that they can make like more phone calls, or they can like send more mass emails, which would end up being spamming buyers inbox, we thought of the approach of like using our core conversation data to equip sales reps with more context about accounts and people so that they know who would be the best person to reach out to, who would be their like best shot at accounts that they should reach out to, and then how to tailor the conversation both from like email outreach standpoint to like phone calls to really have like better engagement with the buyers, so that like it would solve like both sides. Like sales reps can have like better result, and then as like a buyer on the market, you'll get like more tailored solution and more tailored message to your pain points instead of like getting generic email and phone calls from everyone on the market. So that's how we're thinking of like bringing an innovative product to the market based on our core advantage instead of just like going where the market goes. We also need to think about like what would be our core advantage when we think of like an innovation.
And I guess compatibility is super important for a tool like Gong, right? Because you mentioned people and accounts. If you don't integrate with a CRM tool or with other tools, basically that
That's a great
all your solution is isolated, and finally your innovation doesn't get adopted. In my opinion, I don't know. Am I right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's a great ad. I think it's like definitely when we came up with a new product or a new innovative product, we would need to like build new features and we would need to like build new integration, etc. But since we already have like a base compatibility with like the existing tool and tech stack, it actually gave us a great foundation before we expand it further. So that is completely right.
Yeah, and also on that note, I would like to add that in our particular case here at Asana, one of our main narratives is like to, instead of saying to the end clients about like ripping and replacing other solutions, right? We're trying to potentiate and to broaden the scope of the existing solutions that they have. Like now that we're talking about integrations and stuff, because our narrative focuses not only on telling them like our product is the best of breed, right? And you should replace everything else that you're using. But instead, our narrative focuses on saying like, we understand that you may be using different solutions for different things at different departments, but our add value is to connect that work and prevent silos from forming into different softwares or solutions that you may be using in different areas or departments. Right? So our approach is to make our product the single source of truth by interconnecting different solutions that the end clients may be already using and that they may be already getting value out of, right? And giving them this type of cockpit approach where they have like all their information at hand in one single place, where they can track the logs and they can answer some basic questions that make our product stand out. And those questions are who is doing what by when and why, right? Because if you start getting those type of answers, you can get like more perspective on how to have a better approach on your processes, how to get more efficiency out of your teams, right? And instead of having like a mindset of policing the people around, like trying to get like all the details of what they're doing, I mean, our narrative focuses on understanding at a management level on how to improve the work that all the teammates are doing, how can they better collaborate together, and how can our product help foster that collaboration mentality across their teams, right? And in our particular case, we have a ton of integrations out of the box, right? One of the mains being like Google Workspace, or in this case, Microsoft, because the vast majority of companies rely on those solutions in order to run like the backbone of their tech stack. So again, our narrative focuses on how are we going to be integrating. You already mentioned about like CRMs or stuff like that. Now with the example of Gong, well, we're focusing on that perspective as well. How are we going to be interconnecting with other solutions in order to give more value out of those existing solutions to the clients?
So I would like to share a very different perspective. So to the question that whether all those five components make sense or are the drivers, I absolutely agree. They are drivers, and some of the stronger levers for the innovation adoptions, I personally feel, are complexity, getting over the complexity, and making sure that there is observability of that innovation in this space. To give you an example, in the diagnostic space where I am currently, we have a product we are trying to launch, and we get that out in the market. We do have a good clinical value. We do have a good value proposition, but it's not getting that kind of traction that it should. The reason why that happens is because it's not observed by the mass audience just yet. How do we get it through that hoop? How do we make it observable? The way we do it in our landscape, in our market space, is that we make sure we talk about it, make sure it's there are practices that more visible to the audience, bigger audience, mass audience. When we run a pilot, we make sure that that pilot site is not only networking, but also we are carrying that story to the other sites or to the other audience or customer base, so that they can relate to the results and outcomes that the first pilot site had experienced. And I could say that can just replay the same or do the same at their own site. So that's how we create the visibility of the product and create the value. And I think there is one more, like trialability is very important when you're talking about getting on the hoops of the complexity. Trial sites are very, very important, especially in our space, considering that there are so many regulatory challenge and patient information safety concerns around our space that it's not very easy to kind of get the results and outcome accessed quickly. So we have to really collaborate with those sites, make sure that we have the proper channel, we are working through the proper channel, getting the science outcome, patient results can be delivered and can be shared at a bigger forum. We have to do like all those background work in order to get that information out related to the clinical value of that particular product that we are trying to launch or get like traction to. Once that is done, automatically spread the word from that, this is a valuable product, this is a real life results that has a great outcome. So people start believing in the product because you have a concrete result and outcome and visibility of that product outcome. Once that is done, then path gets easier. Then it's up to our like account consultants to kind of spread the words, or like I'm going into all the different phases we talked about, getting into networking, peer-to-peer words, that you kind of spreading the dialogue, and making sure that that is like so widespread that utilization goes up, for that particular innovative product automatically.
Yeah, we will talk about that spreading things in a second, but yeah, it's getting the basics right, Nishant, and after you get the basics right, then your accounts teams, they can spread the word much easier, right? And Dan, in renewables, how do you overcome the complexity and compatibility barriers when pitching niche, very niche data products?
Yeah, sure thing. So I was going to say to Nishan's point, very quick overview of our product and services here at Restart Energy is that we have a lot of data, a lot of dashboards, and it's very granular and always get updated for all sort of energy sectors, right? So we have CCUS, we have oil and gas and renewables, that sort of thing. When it comes to finding out the right audience is always been a challenging thing for us to do, and especially depending on which energy sector that will have different needs. The very short version that I typically tell prospects when we're at the events is that since our product is usually used for decision makers, imagine if you are a CEO or a CFO or a project manager. This is for offshore wind or just renewables developers. Instead of hiring an analyst for $60,000-$80,000 a year, you can subscribe to our model, get the same data, and you can make decisions just like that. But how do you really get this, through the medium of, on the internet, right? How do you do digital marketing? How do you really say this and really encapsulate all of that? So we have to figure out who are the right target audience and what are their needs. Because a lot of companies such as, I don't know, Amazon, Microsoft, everyone wants to get into the energy transition, the renewables initiative, and they want to get something out of it, but they don't really have a specific idea what is it that I want out of this. So we have to also guide them to tell them, hey, this is what we can do, and this is what you might want, and then from there we can get a conversation started, and then we're gonna get the self on the call. So in order for us to do that, we have obviously just the typical social media marketing and email marketing. And then we would do webinars, just kind of provide the values, right? We host different webinars and engage content with the white papers that we have for the solution. And from there, people would show more interest, and then we would kind of lock them in the, like the marketing, I guess, funnel, which personally, I believe that we should move away from marketing funnel. We should move towards the flywheel model, kind of like the Amazon business model. So when we lock them in there, that's when we really make sure that we can get them to talk about their needs, and then we can accommodate them. Like, hey, these are the solutions that we have that we can provide, so that it helps you with that. And pretty much when it comes to try, we have a full sandbox. So we run a guided pilot with one regional data set and give them like a time frame of a week or so to test out, so that they can tell us if we're a good fit or not. Everything else, the compatibility, complexity, we pre-package the dashboard, we can send them a template, that sort of thing, but it's very tedious, and we want to make sure that we do it as efficient as possible, because we're marketing to the masses, not just one company. So it's a little bit case by case basis in that sense.
Really interesting. And you mentioned the importance of messaging and targeting, which I think are crucial in B2B marketing, right? It's not like B2C marketing where everyone could buy your products. Here, you need to be way more focused on who you want to be talking with and with which message, and relying on your relative advantage, right?
I actually had a question I was going to ask everyone here earlier, is that to how do you guys surface relative advantage without overwhelming the buyer with new complexity for your products? Because there's so many products out there, right?
Great question.
I think, like, from my experience, landing a differentiated messaging framework from the get-go is a key for successful go-to-market, as well as like marketing campaign, etc. And then a successful differentiated messaging framework need to start from the customers, from the buyers. So in my previous work, I did a lot of customer research to just like understand their pain points, and then we, from like understand the pain points and what they care about, we'll be able to tailor our solution in a way that speak to them. So if they care about A, but like our solution is solving for B, like there will be a mismatch and they would not care about it. So I think like defining our target audience, really trying to understand them, and then build our messaging and positioning that speaks to that is the key for differentiation. And then from my experience as well, at the beginning when we were thinking about like bringing a sales engagement product to market, we were even starting with like explaining to the buyers, okay, what like why do you need a sales engagement solution? But then like after learning that this is such a mature product category in the market, we realized that like the need for explaining what sales engagement is and why do people need to have a sales engagement solution is not necessary. What we needed to do is why sales engagement solution on the market is not working and what are we changing and why we are different and why they need to change. So it's like the mental shift instead of educating them about like what this is. So those are a few points from my own experience.
Just to piggyback on like what Phoebe mentioned, sales engagement model very similar to that. What we implement as a customer engagement model. It's kind of a very similar idea. It's just that we see it from the lenses of customer. We segment our customer in different portfolios, especially in our diagnostics. We have multiple channels. We created a customer journey map. Basically, what are the different touch points in order to kind of like take the product the same kind of visibility that it needs to be and get a quick approval from a particular site or a customer account, you can call it. So there are multiple players, as you know, and most of the salespeople have to hit those points. And that's why I was telling that there's a lot of similarity between a customer engagement model and a sales engagement as well. So you go from one point to another, you make sure you talk in the same terms that they understand. You actually relay the message in the same way what matters to that particular customer base. So like I said, it's a matrix sometimes you have to talk through. So to give you an example, so we work with lab directors, there are IT components in it, there is a CEO of the institution, there is a CFO of the institution. So sometimes we have to work with each of those customer portfolios or customer segmentation in order to actually get the product in that particular account. And I'll explain to you a little more. So let's say finance. They are only concerned about, is it worth it for the institution? Is it going to make the finance like easier or like make the process easier? Is it effective in terms of like revenue? Is it going to save cost, time for me, my patient, and for everybody at the center? If that aspect is getting checked out, that's a yes from that finance partner. Now let's take a lab directors. They are only concerned about the outcomes, how effective that particular technology is. Should we adopt it? If we adopt it, how fast is it? How accurate the results is? Is it giving the outcome that we are expecting? Does it cover all the targets? Is it giving me the results quicker than doing a manual work? If all that satisfies, then we have a green light from the director as well. Now turn to CEO. When you have the CEO, they are just looking at the whole landscape. Is the finance, is the instrument, is the people, everybody is happy? Okay, I'm going to sign off on this and we'll get this product in. The whole narrative is that we have to really check the boxes for each of the different stakeholders at a different account level. And that's how we are able to kind of create a visibility for the product. And there is no odds after that. You can just like quickly get in and get the product and continue to add value with time, add a new things, new software, new workflow, and simplify it and make it better over time in order to keep them utilizing your product.
Yep. And on that note, also like it's very important. Also, like besides just understanding the stakeholders that you're dealing with, also understand the pains across the company, right? Because in my particular case, what we focus in product and also in our go-to-market strategy is to understand what are like the common pain points across the board, right? And also we adjust the narrative in order to provide value to the different stakeholders depending on the roles, right? As Nishan already mentioned, the narrative should be different if you're speaking to a CFO or if you're talking to the IT director, right? Maybe the IT director will be more interested in learning more about like the security layers of the product, right? Whilst the CFO may be more interested in the ROI and impact that it will have financially on the company, right? But and also I would like to add another layer that we're adding here, or at least that I'm adding in my strategy, which is like when we're going to very diverse markets, in this case like EMEA or Latin America, we need to make sure that we're not just focusing on the common pains across different industries or the different type of narratives on the stakeholders, but also we need to understand how to adapt culturally to the nuances that they may happen like across different countries, right? And also, besides like those cultural nuances, what other layers of value are we going to be providing? In this case, and in my particular strategy, I'm focusing on providing that value via different channel partners, which could be different bars, right? Different companies that integrate different solutions and that provide value on top of our solution and that can build more complex solutions for the end clients. So understanding all the channels that you may have in order to provide value for us is like is crucial, and also layering it up with adjusting the narratives and adjusting the messaging across the board, like on different industries, stakeholders, and also in this case adding the nuance of language localization and cultural localization.
Ruben, I couldn't agree more. When we start, like, in our field, any product innovation, the first thing that we look at is it adding value. Second thing we looked at, what are the different pain points are we solving with that innovation? So I totally agree with your point of the pain. Like, when you are looking at the accounts, what we do is like do analysis, like what are the different pain points, like if we are pitching them this particular innovation, is it going to solve their issues? Like if they have five, are we at least attacking four of them? If that is, it is simplifying, or if it's reducing their pain or effort, or simplifying it, we are getting through the complexity that we have been talking about. Second, of course, like when we are talking about the worldwide channel, right? So there we have different regulations, different culture dynamics that place. Not everybody perceive the product the same way, absolutely the same way that Ruben expressed. Their technologies are different. Their third, like we use like a different tools in order to integrate. Their tools are different. Are their softwares kind of the same? Or is the product is a good fit? When we are filling up tenders, there are things that we need to consider, like, because government also acts differently, regulation act differently, we have different approval system. So to give you an example, for any medical device or like pharmaceutical or any kind of like products in medtech, we have to get an FDA approval, right? In Europe, you have to get a CE mark. So are we doing those or taking those steps in order to get the product facilitated in that particular region? If we are not, then we are not successful in getting the product situated in the right manner or getting through the complexity that we need to get through to launch the product worldwide.
Yes, those are really good answers, guys. The reason why I asked, and just to recap so we can move to the next session with the interest of time, is because I've always been in the B2C marketing space, and with my current company, this is the first time I actually moved entirely to B2B. And I always wonder, is this the same? It's kind of like reassuring that you guys are all having the same pain point, which is trying to identify the right target audience as well as the specific needs of said target audience within different regions, even though you provide the same product and service and value, right? So that's why I was thinking, okay, is it the same thing that every other B2B marketer is facing? How are they overcoming that, and what kind of like is it like a standardized one size fits all kind of answer? But it looks like it's all trial and errors, and that's, to me, it's a little bit reassuring to know that I'm just not like the only person that's going through this. Because I talked to my peers, I did research, and I did all kind of stuff just to figure out within my little, I guess, like part of the portfolio. Let's say I have three key stakeholders for renewables: low carbon supply chain, energy companies, which are developers, EPC, or utilities. Each of those target audience is, they have different needs. Some of them, they want what is it, the thought leadership content to get some value before they want to be interested in our product. Some of them, they care about the climate change topics or political climate in general to see whether or not it will be profitable for them to really go through with a project, and the other ones are just the utilities. They only care about actual hourly information about the pricing of the market. And they all need our products, but how do we really differentiate ourselves to each of them, and how do we make sure that our marketing messages go to them efficiently without spreading ourselves thin? Anyways, that was just the reason why I asked the question. And it seems that you guys all kind of handle it differently. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and you can have perfect product knowing all the pain points, knowing the cultural differences, right? And you can think about media campaigns, and you can think that media campaigns will solve all your problems, or having the right partnerships will solve all your problems. But in practice, peer influence and networks often do the heavy lifting. And so, how have you seen adoption spread through communities? Well, partnerships already I mentioned, and you discussed that, Ruben, or any other kind of direct relationships?
I can go talk about it because I have one example that really hit me, and I tried to kind of like use it more and more. In the past, I had a new dormant product. When I say new dormant, means like it was new in the space, but because of not properly channelized or getting through the complexity part, it was very dormant. Nobody was using it. So we really wanted to invest little, at the same time get a bigger outcome. And in order to do that, we started a channel, like networking channel. So we started with one particular conference where got the visibility we needed. We had a little bit of audience asking about it. We get the pilot started at a couple of sites, getting that voice of customers out. And once those voice of customers were out, like word of mouth, honestly, peer-to-peer interaction, more conference visit, new publication, papers, peer channels, webinars, we really used all these channels in order to multiply the words and get the word out, spread out like to a bigger and mass audience. And could tell you that the revenue was nothing, and that it went from nothing to something that was so significant that we had the CEO recognizing us, that this is something that we never expected that would happen with the product. So having a right channel and a network, peer-to-peer interaction, and honestly, peer-to-peer, it sounds like two words, a very effective channel, because they know who is using, how they're using, and they are in the business. So they know their space. They talk more than we do at our level. So everybody kind of like getting the same sense of the product and outcome that you probably would have a hard time reaching out to, so it kind of like it spreads out very, very fast, and then it quickly multiplies and you get the results.
That's a really impressive channel, Nishant. And I think like community building or networking, as I see recently, is becoming like one of the most effective channels. From my experience, especially at Gong, we normally use like a multi-channel approach for most of the campaigns, and especially for bigger launch that we do. So if we go back to like our framework about like, okay, like if we want to bring an innovative solution to the market or differentiate ourselves, first we'll need to understand like who's the audience that we speak to, that we want to reach. And then number two, like what's the messaging that we want to make them understand or like take away with. And then number three is like, where can we reach them? So like we use that framework to like really understand like where can we reach those audience, and normally we'll come down to like several different channels to amplify that message, and then like keep iterating that message, and over time like that will land and stick in their mind. So in my example, we do like several different events and campaigns where we have like private dinners that we invited our like key buyer persona to attend. So it's like part of like community building or like networking, right? Then we also have like social campaigns that we post like on LinkedIn and relevant social channels. We have our press releases to like 10 major PR articles. And then our CEO were on like several different interviews with the key media. We also have big billboards in like San Francisco and then also Times Square, and then use that same material to share on social. And then we also have like paid ads, paid search, and like customer email campaign. And what we found really effective was like using our existing branding with our existing customers and then like amplify that was becoming super effective. And then like the networking, like in person network effect was really helpful as well, because we sort of like bringing people with the same mindset or the same field together. So what they get out of that is not just about like learning about our innovation, but also like learning from each other in that same network or community. So those are the things that I think find really effective. And the fact that like it's not just only individual channels themselves, but also like the accumulation or like the network effect of like multi-channel approach really amplify and iterate that messaging or that positioning that we want to land in our key audience.
Yeah, I love that network effect, and also like people want to hear from other people and hear success stories, and people want validation before these big deals, right? And Ruben, I would love to hear more stories about those partnerships, and if you could give us examples of what kind of partnerships you do in Latin America versus the ones that you do in the US or Canada. Are they the same kind of partners that you operate in different territories, and how that helped drive adoption where traditional media fell short?
Well, in this case, these are like there are like different type of partnerships that I'm working with, and the type of partners are normally in this case are system integrators or value add resellers, right, or distributors. So they have different business models, and we try to understand their business models in order to adapt a strategy to tap into that market and into their customer base, and also to try to work together in a strategy that makes sense for the both of us, right? And let's say with the system integrators, normally we partner up with companies that have a solid reputation integrating different solutions, and we find a way to make our product a good fit for them by showing them all the add value that they could bring to the table to their end clients by interconnecting these solutions, right? And also, I see it as a multiplier effect, because if you start like growing a partner ecosystem, in this case with system integrators, you're multiplying your sales force, right? And why is that? Because right now, instead of trying to think on expanding a direct sales team, you can start leveraging on other companies, in this case your partners. You can leverage on their sales structure, right, on their sales force, on their customer success installed resources, right? So we start strategizing on how to multiply how we're going to market with these type of companies. And yes, there are like a different type of partners across the three regions that you already mentioned, but in general, they fall into the same category, right? They're like businesses that are trying to expand their reach, and that gives us like a very interesting leverage with them, because they're also conducting their own marketing initiatives, right? And then we can co-fund events. We can have like our MDF program to incentivize webinars that are like more localized into different niches, into different verticals, right? So that gives us a broader capability of going to market and tapping into different markets, niches, and industries that otherwise would cost us a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of try and error, right? So right now we're leveraging on that, and even more so in these very heavy cultural nuance regions, like let's say Latin America in this case, right? Because we have like a ton of countries that, despite like the fact that they speak Spanish in the vast majority, right, the culture is like broadly different across the region. And we're partnering with companies to add like more value. Besides like the things that I already mentioned, we also focus on providing them with local invoicing, right? Which is very important for the transactions. And that's a huge differentiator because in my case right now with Asana being a US based company that doesn't have local entities in Latin America, I mean, for us is a huge leverage and also a huge win to get the support from the partners, right? In order to provide the end clients with the local invoices, because that give them like more fiscal advantages and that incentivizes the sale, right? Besides like just offering like a US invoice that may not have the same fiscal benefits or impacts to our end clients. And also, on top of that, we're working with our partners as well in a localized pricing strategy because the markets are different, right? The purchase power is different. So in this case, right now we're rolling out a strategy of a localized pricing in particularly in Mexico and in Brazil in order to cater to have like a better pricing for those audiences, right? Those are like emerging markets. They are booming. They're very promising, and they're like almost a greenfield right now. And we're trying to provide us as a company directly to the clients and also to our partners like a better way to tap into that market by offering a more attractive way to know our product, to try it, and also to start expanding it because our strategy is to land and expand. Right. And with that, I mean that maybe we land a deal with a specific team or a specific country on a multinational company. Right. But our focus after that first land will be to expand to other branches, to other teams. Having like these main hubs like Mexico and Brazil with a localized pricing, I mean, that gives us a huge competitive advantage if we compare it with companies that are not localizing their pricing. And also on top of that, if we add the layer of having like this network of business partners or channel partners that can help us to tap into that market by providing local invoicing and local language, local culture, and also like support on a local time zone. I mean, you are again localizing your efforts and your focus, and that gives us a huge boost in sales. And I mean, it's been proven by how the numbers have been growing in those regions where we're leveraging this type of sales motion via partners.
So
That's
I
fascinating.
just want
Sorry.
to piggyback on what just Ruben said. Like in the peer-to-peer network channel, and I mentioned webinar, I mentioned different platforms where they come and meet. You know, it's very, very important that we have multicultural, multi-language. And we had that conversation, like especially when you are a global network or global company where you have to work with different customers that speak different languages. You have to present your thoughts, you have to present your ideas, you have to present your product in which more comfortable and better understandable by that particular audience. And that's where language play a very big role. So whenever we do a webinar, whenever we communicate anything, we tend to partner with agency or we take our own plunge to kind of like make sure that we publish it in different languages. Webinar convert into like Spanish, Portugal, French in Canada. You know, French big market. You know, I mean, if you don't do the communication in French, nobody is gonna like even pay attention to you. But French
It's
and English is so huge. You know, when we it comes to like communicating with them, like or channeling or sharing an information with them.
it's
So
ticking all those boxes that Nishant you were mentioning before, right? Going with the right partner, you ensure that you are ticking boxes and also you are scaling correctly because you are not only using your audience, you are using your partner's audience, and that's of course is a great way from maybe from early adopters to the large majority that all of us we want to go after. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. And to all the ones listening, thank you so much. Please don't forget to subscribe if you like B2B Marketing Futures. Share and give us a like if you really like us. And yeah, until next time, thank you so much.